This video is about living things or living organisms. Biology is the study of living things. First, we're going to look at what living things have in common. Living things react and adapt to their environment. For example, people sweat when they're hot. Sunflowers turn to face the sun. Animals migrate in search of food, and in other ways also living things react. Living things have to reproduce. They make offspring or babies that look like them. If living things don't reproduce, they will become extinct. They will die out. Living things grow and change during their lives. They need a source of energy to grow. That's very important. Living things pass their genes to their young. That's why their offspring have the same characteristics as them. Genes control these characteristics. Babies look like their parents. Living things need to maintain stable conditions inside their bodies. It has to stay the same. For example, temperatures inside your body has to stay at 37 degrees Celsius, even when it's very hot or very cold outside. Living things are very complex. They have a great number of parts working together. They're not simple, even single-cell organisms. Living things are made of cells. Cells are the building blocks of life. Some living things are made of only one cell. Cells are very small, and the human body has trillions of cells. That's many. In our bodies, cells specialize to do special jobs. Skin cells are different from brain cells and muscle cells. All living things have these characteristics in common. Living things have much in common, but they're also very different. There is a huge diversity of living things in the world. They have found ways to adapt and thrive in different habitats. Living things form communities or biomes in different habitats, and they depend on each other for survival. Now we're going to look at animal adaptations. Living things had to diversify to adapt to completely different environments. Poison is one strategy used by snakes, scorpions, monarch butterflies, and some other animals. Poison can be used to defend against predators. It is also used by predators to kill their prey. Energy storage is important. Some animals, like camels, store energy in the form of fat. This allows camels to survive in desert habitats without food and water for long periods of time. Living in group is beneficial. Some animals live in groups, and this allows them to cooperate with each other. For example, lions live in groups called prides, and they work together to hunt large prey. Sharp senses are important. For example, wolves have a great sense of smell. They are much more sensitive than humans. Eagles and other birds of prey can see much farther than human can. Senses help animals to find food, avoid dangers, and communicate. Animals that live in completely dark places like caves, such as some fish, lose their sight because they don't need them, but their other senses may improve. The next thing is speed. Speed is very important for some animals to catch their prey. Cheetahs, falcons, and killer whales are extremely fast predators. Some prey animals are also very fast. For example, a zebra or an ostrich can also run very fast. Next thing is fur, feather, scales, shell, or other protective body coverings. For example, thick fur protects an animal against the cold, and you can think of a polar bear, for example. Next is blubber. Seals and whales that swim in the Arctic have a layer of blubber to keep them warm. Thick fur would be no good for them. It would slow them down, and it's hard to keep them clean if you live in water most of the time. Antifreeze, some Arctic fish have antifreeze in their blood so it doesn't freeze. Next thing is hibernation. And hibernation is a form of deep sleep. And some animals hibernate to conserve energy because there's no food to be found during winter. For example, if these animals don't hibernate, they will starve to death during the cold months of winter. Migration, for example, some birds migrate to warmer climates where they can find more food. It's all about food, about energy. And camouflage. Camouflage allows some animals to blend in with their environment and hide to avoid being detected by other animals. Both prey and predators use camouflage to survive. It's all about finding food or trying not to be food. Some animals have sharp horns, sharp claws, and other ways to protect themselves. Some animals are covered with quills, like the porcupine. This is to defend against predators. Animals that are better adapted to their environment have a better chance of survival. Okay, that's called animal adaptations. Now let's talk about plant adaptations. Plant, like all living things, had to diversify to adapt to completely different environments. Many plants store water and nutrients in their underground tubers or other structures such as rhizomes and bulbs to prepare for harsh and dry conditions, especially in desert conditions. Some plants spread their roots deep or wide to look for water and nutrients. Some plants have thick and waxy leaves, and this allows them to store water in their leaves. The shiny and waxy surface of their leaves reflect the heat and stop the plant from drying. Seed dispersal is very important, and plants have found many clever ways of dispersing their seeds. Carnivorous plants are meat-eating plants. Some plants live where the soil doesn't have enough nutrients. These plants trap small animals and eat them. Venus flytrap is an example of a carnivorous plant. Many plants become dormant during winter by dropping their leaves and going to sleep. Dormancy is like hibernation. Flowering plants have colorful flowers to attract pollinators. As bees or other pollinators search the flowers for nectar, they pollinate these flowers. Some plants are poisonous. Most animals won't eat these plants. It's a defense mechanism. Some plants have thorns or spiky leaves to make it difficult for animals to eat them. It's a defense mechanism. Classification of living things. Living things can be divided into different groups based on their shared characteristics. Classification makes studying living things easier. Living things can be divided into these large groups. Bacteria are microscopic, which means they're very, very tiny, very small. Most are single-cell organisms. Some bacteria cause diseases, most don't. Protists, or the group Protista, are mostly single-celled and microscopic. Mushrooms and molds belong to the fungi group or fungi group. Trees, shrubs, flowers, and grasses are all plants, and you're familiar with them. There are a great variety of animals living in the sea and on land, like fish, like mammals, like reptiles, and all kinds. Here's a look at the groups again. Now let's look at classification of animals. Animals can be divided into different groups as well, and they're grouped based on their characteristics. Classification makes studying living things easier. Animals can be divided into two huge groups. The first group is the one with animals that don't have backbones. These animals are also called invertebrates. They include insects, snails, worms, squids, and jellyfish. Now we have animals with a backbone, which includes the fish. It also includes animals called amphibians, such as frogs, toads, newts, and salamanders. Reptiles, and they include the snakes, lizards, turtles, and the crocodiles. The next two groups are warm-blooded animals, and they include the birds, which are covered with feathers, and mammals that are covered with hair or fur mostly, which also includes humans. There are a great diversity within these groups as well. For example, scientists believe that there are about 10,000 species of birds on Earth. There are also more than 5,000 different species of mammals in the world. Scientists also estimate that there are more than 5 million insect species in the world. Living things can also be divided into three large groups. First group is the producers, then we have the consumers, and the third group are the decomposers. Producers make their own food, consumers eat other living things, decomposers decompose or break down dead plants and animals, as well as organic waste such as animal feces, fallen leaves, and so on. Plants are producers. Let's look at that. Animals are mostly consumers. Some animals, such as some insects, are decomposers. Fungi and most bacteria are decomposers. Protists are a mixed group. You can find consumers, decomposers, as well as some producers such as seaweeds in this group. Algae belong to the protista group. Also, some bacteria called blue-green bacteria are producers. All producers use water, carbon dioxide, and energy from sunlight to produce food. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants use the energy from sunlight, water from the soil, and carbon dioxide from the air to produce food and oxygen. This is a very important process. Consumers eat other plants and animals to obtain the energy they need to survive. Most animals are consumers. Consumers can be divided into three groups: herbivores, omnivores, and carnivores. Herbivores or herbivores are plant eaters. For example, some insects, rabbits, goats, sheep, cows, and elephants are some examples of herbivores. Carnivores eat meat. Spiders, cats, foxes, wolves, and tigers are just a few examples. Carnivores eat other animals. Omnivores eat both plants and animals. Raccoons, black bears, as well as most humans are omnivores. They eat both plants and animals. When living things die, decomposers such as bacteria, fungi, and some insects break down or decompose their bodies and help return the nutrients back to the soil or other environments. This is the energy pyramid. Living things depend on sunlight for energy, either directly or indirectly. Only producers, such as plants, can absorb sunlight's energy and turn it into food. Plants and other producers are at the bottom of all food chains. Herbivores are primary or first level consumers. They eat plants. Secondary consumers eat primary consumers. For example, a robin might eat a grasshopper. Tertiary consumers or third level consumers eat secondary consumers. For example, a wolf might eat a fox. And then we have decomposers. Decomposers are the cleanup crew. They break down organic waste and dead organisms and recycle these important nutrients. They return the nutrients back to the soil or aquatic habitats like lakes and oceans. Without decomposers, plants would not get these nutrients, and the world would be full of dead plants and animals. Farmers and gardeners use decomposed cow manure or poop from other animals to add nutrients to the soil. Decomposers might look disgusting, but they do a great job, a very important job. Decomposers return the nutrients back to the soil. Plants use their roots to absorb these nutrients. Let's look at classification of plants. Plants can be divided into different groups based on their common characteristics. Classification will always make studying things easier. Plants can be divided into two large groups. The first group includes plants that make seeds. Each seed contains a baby plant inside. It's called the embryo. Flowering plants make seeds inside their fruits. When conditions are right, a seed will germinate and create a new plant. And usually that's warm weather and water. Conifers are not flowering plants, but they do create seeds in their cones. Pines and cedars are conifers. There are also plants that do not make seeds. No seeds at all. Ferns are an ancient group. They existed and dominated the landscape even long before the dinosaurs. Mosses are ancient and primitive plants that grow in damp environments. They grow on rocks, on trees, and on moist grounds. Mosses don't have roots and stems. Algae are not really plants, but like plants, they are producers. They are capable of photosynthesis. Algae are actually protists. Here's another look at how plants can be divided into groups. This is called classification. Let's look at flowering plants more closely. Let's look at a flower and its important parts. Petals are brightly colored to attract pollinators like bees, hummingbirds, and butterflies. Sepals support the petals and they protect the flower when it's in a bud at the beginning. Pistil is the female part of the flower. You have stigma, style, and ovary. Seeds develop in the ovary. Stamen is the male part of the flower. You have anther and filament. When the time is right, pollens are released from the anther and travel through the pistil to fertilize the egg cells inside the ovary. Many plants need pollinators like bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, and bats to carry their pollen from one flower to another. After pollination and fertilization, flowers develop into fruits. In science, a tomato and a cucumber are considered fruits because they hold seeds inside. Seeds develop inside the fruit, as you can see here. When the conditions are right, a healthy seed can germinate and grow to make a new plant. This is called germination. Now we're going to look at parts of a seed. The most important part of the seed is the embryo, which is the baby plant. The seed coat protects the embryo, and the food storage provides the embryo with the nutrients it needs to grow. It's important to note that it takes the seed a while before it can make its own food through photosynthesis. The food storage gives the seed a head start in life. If seeds scatter, they have a better chance of finding the right place to grow. Different plants use different seed dispersal strategies to spread their seeds. To disperse something means to scatter or spread it. These are some of the strategies plants use to disperse their seeds. Plants need to spread their seeds to give their young a better chance of surviving. Only some seeds find a suitable place to germinate and grow. Wind is important. Some seeds are scattered by wind. For example, maple keys have wings. They spin and fly a short distance away from their mother tree. Dandelion and milkweeds produce light feathery seeds that are carried long distances by the wind. Animals play a very important part in seed dispersal. Some seeds disperse by attaching themselves to animal fur. Some animals, like squirrels, bury acorns or other nuts for winter and forget about them. When animals like birds eat food such as berries, they cannot digest the seeds. Seeds can come out in their waste unharmed. Most of what humans eat are plant seeds, such as rice, wheat, corn, and beans. Humans plant these seeds to grow these plants for themselves and also for their farm animals. Water is important for some plants. Some seeds like coconuts and lotus seeds are dispersed by water. Some plants produce pods that explode open. As they open, they shoot out their seeds. This is sometimes called self-dispersal or mechanical dispersal. Fire is important for some plants. Some trees such as jack pine need high temperatures from a forest fire to open their cone and disperse their seeds. Some seeds may be dispersed by more than one single method. Seed dispersal is extremely important for plants to reproduce and survive. Let's look at plant reproduction. Plants that grow from seeds may be slightly different from their parent plants. When male and female parts of different flowers join, a new plant is made that is not an exact copy of its parent plant. This form of reproduction allows the plants to change and evolve and diversify. Cuttings are interesting. Sometimes when you cut a piece of plant and put it in water or soil, it will grow roots and develop into a new plant. For example, when a branch falls off a tree and finds suitable conditions, it might grow into an identical plant. This is a form of cloning too. Bulbs, some plants create underground bulbs like tulips, onions, and garlic. These plants make bulbs to store water and nutrients. New plants will grow from these bulbs when the conditions are right. This is also a form of cloning. Tubers. You would surely know about them. Some plants, like the potato plant, create underground storage structures called tubers. Tubers store water and nutrients. They help the plants survive harsh conditions like droughts. Rhizomes. Some plants create underground stems called rhizomes that help with reproduction. They're also used for storage of water and nutrients. Some examples of rhizomes are ginger and some irises, as well as some lilies. Runners. Some plants, like strawberries, have runners, which are type of a branch. Runners grow roots. When they touch the ground, eventually they grow into a new plant. These plants can spread very quickly. Like all living things, plants don't live forever. They need to reproduce, which means basically produce offspring like themselves. This is called reproduction. If living things don't reproduce, they will become extinct. Now, in conclusion, living things are amazing. They have managed to adapt to so many different environments. They live in all kinds of habitats. They live in the Arctic, hot deserts, deepest oceans, tallest mountains, and even some of the harshest habitats you could even imagine. Some habitats, like the tropical rainforest and the coral reefs, support a wider variety of living things. Biology is the study of living things.